All right, so let's begin and move on to our next slide. As always, you should have already typed in what you think that we will be doing today. For the most part, I would probably guess that you are all correct. Why? Because we did this same skill last week. So, what are we doing this week? We are working with central idea again. So, our objective today, we will be able to identify the central idea and details that support that central idea based on those details in the text. To be successful today, you need to be able to identify the topic. Okay, what's it talking about? And then determine the central idea. All right. Today is going to be different. Last week, if you remember, I gave you details that you had to determine which details best supported. Now you have to determine which one would be the best central idea. All right. So then we're going to make sure to identify those relevant details as well. Okay, that support that central idea. So, what is central idea? Let's go ahead and review that. Turn and talk about that. What do you think? So, central idea is what? Central idea is what the text is all about. Now, in this slide, I want you to go ahead, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and watch that main idea and understanding main idea video because it definitely gives us some great strategies that we could use to help us identify that central or main idea um, when we are reading a piece of text. All right. So watch that video and then come on back to me. So let's go ahead and get into my model today. So we are still reading the Celestial Railroad. So let's go ahead and take a look at my model. So you just clicked on this video. So here is our video here. So as I'm reading, before I even get started reading, I'm going to think about, you know what? What is the central idea? Okay, what is the topic? What is it talking about? And then I'm going to think about that while I'm reading. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at our different options here. So, the Chinese workers did many dangerous jobs with the railroad that other workers didn't want to do. The Chinese workers blasted tunnels through mountains for the railroad to pass through. Okay, so which one would be the central idea of paragraphs 1 and 2? So these two paragraphs. So let's go ahead and take a look at the text here. As the Central Pacific soared toward Donner Summit at the top of the Sierras, what's the Sierras? That's right, the Sierra Mountains, okay? The Chinese took jobs no one else would touch. Well, that reminds me of something that was over here for our central idea. That's right, right here it says other workers didn't want to do. Okay, so let's read on. They hung from ropes draped over the edges of cliffs and tapped holes into the sides of mountains. After inserting dynamite, they jerked the ropes and were yanked upward. If they were lucky, they cleared the explosion and lived to tap more holes. If not, they fell into the gorge below. Chinese workers blasted tunnels with nitroglycerin when others workers would not touch the explosive liquid. They graded hillsides, they chopped trees, they carried dirt in wheelbarrows and filled huge gorges with it, leveled it, and laid railroad ties evenly across it. Other workers then laid the iron rails and hammered them down while the Chinese went ahead to prepare the next mile. Most other workers ate stale meat and drank blackish water. Because the Chinese paid for their own food, they were allowed to choose their food. They chose things that were familiar to them, such as oysters and cuttlefish, vegetables, rice, and tea. Crossing Donner Summit at 7,000 feet, many other workers uh, took sick or quit, but the Chinese kept going. So based on these two paragraphs, I got to determine, okay, what's the central idea? Well, while I read it, I noticed there were some things that repeated. What repeated? Chinese took jobs that no one else would do, right there, as well as in the first couple paragraphs right here, in the first sentence here. Would not touch explosive liquid. So that tells me which one of these central ideas is best. The Chinese worker blasted tunnels through mountains for the railroad to pass through. Well, we know that happened, and it's kind of talking about them blowing and blasting tunnels up. However, what is this mainly talking about? It's talking about all those jobs that were so dangerous that no one else wanted to do except for the Chinese workers. So that is the best central idea. What's some evidence or three details that I could find in the text here that would support that main idea? Well, if I go back into the text, I will see that one that I can do is, let me get this off here. One that I can do that I saw, that I noticed, was other workers would not touch the explosive liquid, which can be found right here. Okay, that proves that, you know what, it's people, the Chinese workers did the dangerous jobs, it's explosive liquid, and other workers didn't want to do that job. I also, if I go back into the text, I see another detail that supports that. The Chinese took jobs no one else would touch. Where was that at? That was in the very first sentence, the topic sentence of that paragraph. Weird. Both paragraphs, the topic sentence contains the same type of sentence. It's repeated. Chinese took jobs no one else would touch. The other workers would not touch the explosive liquid. Okay? So my topic sentences gave me the answer, as well as it's repeated, okay, throughout. Now, my third detail that I chose was they hung from ropes draped over the edges of cliffs. Now, how does that support the central idea is that Chinese workers did many dangerous jobs with the railroad that other workers didn't want to do? Well, because that's one of those dangerous jobs. I could have said that they blasted the tunnels with nitroglycerin. Okay, that's a dangerous job. They graded hillsides. That means they climbed. Okay, that's a dangerous job. Okay, being trying to be clear from an explosion. That's a dangerous job. That all supports that central idea. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today. All right. It should be now time to go to the restroom, to take our restroom break. And then when we get back, you are going to be doing your redo, which is over this paragraph on page 273. Notice there's something different here. Okay. You need to go ahead and find the central idea and then two supporting details. What are two supporting details instead of three? Make sure that you're working with your partner and being a good partner there. All right. This is Mr. Fleming, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.